You're listening to She's the Business Podcast.
How do you know the difference between your intuition speaking and the voice of fear that's driving your decisions? And what if you could tap into this intuition more often and be able to really leverage it for your business so that you actually can take a step back and stop overthinking and stop overacting that just leads to overwhelm and stress and all of this overcompensating activity, and instead feel much more in alignment and flow? Well, that's exactly what we're talking about on today's episode. So please stay tuned. It's coming right up.
Hi, I'm your host, Jessica Osborne, and over the last 25 years in marketing and business, I've helped many brands to launch, scale, and grow, with some of them becoming multi-billion-dollar companies. I'm here to inspire you to get out of your own way and create a profitable, fulfilling business while living the lifestyle you really desire, without all the hustle. So I bring you She's the Business Podcast, a unique blend of strategies, tactics, mindset, health, and spirituality, literally everything you need to be the successful leader of your dream business. Made by women, for women, this is your weekly dose of motivation and inspiration.
My very special guest today is Tara Fischer, who is an energetics coach and spiritual guide. She's also a manifestation expert, money mindset expert, and she is the host of the Be Magnetic podcast. Now, Tara really knows her stuff when it comes to understanding energetics and how to leverage them, how to really step into that space of the feminine energy, utilize your masculine energy as well to the best of your ability, but to find that balance between them. And she explains so well how we can understand and tune into one of the greatest parts of that feminine energy, which is our intuition, and really understanding the difference between what is intuition, what is the fear speaking, how to feel it, where to feel it, all of those things, all those questions that you might have is what she's about to answer in this episode today. So here we go. I'm about to press play. Sit back and enjoy. Let's do this. So I'm here with Tara Fischer. Tara, thank you so much for joining me today on She's the Business Podcast. I'm excited.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited too.
That's so cool. So Tara, you said you're an energetics coach and a spiritual guide. What does that mean? What do you do? Who do you help in your business? Can you give us a little bit of a rundown?
Yeah, of course. So I work mainly with female entrepreneurs just because I'm one myself, and I'm so passionate about, all the challenges that come with entrepreneurship as a woman, and also the liberations that come with it. So I'm just really passionate about helping women to really thrive in that area of their lives. Although the work that I do is really very holistic. So as an energetics coach and spiritual guide, I work mainly with the energies of a human being. So that being their mindset, so their thought patterns, their subconscious habits, but also their aura and their frequency. So more of the emotional charge they're carrying around certain things like money or their business, signing clients, things like that. And then I'm also leaning into the spiritual connection that we all carry deep within us, and really helping women to unlock that and understand how they can use their connection with source to make their journey of entrepreneurship a little bit easier.
Wow, there's so much there that we can dive into. So I'm just keen to understand, I guess, first off, what do you see are the specific challenges that women have as entrepreneurs that, you really are there to help people to overcome and resolve?
So I think the biggest one being that doing business in general is such a masculine way of doing things, right? We all grew up in a masculine dominated world and society, and especially when it comes to business, there's so much emphasis on the masculine approach to things. So being very productive, working long hours, taking a lot of action, and anytime you're like taking a step back, maybe like going a bit more with the flow, you're lazy, like you're never going to be successful and things like that. And because that's not our true feminine nature, what happens with a lot of entrepreneurs is that they either very in the beginning or like later down the line hit this brick wall of realizing, okay, the way I've been doing things or the way I'm doing things isn't working for me because it's burning me out. It's making me feel like a lot of resentment, or it's just not working and I'm not seeing the results, or that I'm doing everything that everyone says I should be doing. And that's because they're not operating from their true feminine power, from their true essence, from the way they should be operating to really bring out their full potential. So that's being the first thing. And then the other thing being with all things around money mindset. I mean, we as a society have like a messed up money mindset anyway, but especially for women, we're like, there's still so much from our past, from our ancestors around money that we as women have to work through, because like not too long ago, maybe 50 years ago, like we weren't even like allowed to make money, or just like it wasn't the norm for us. And just like so much around, feeling worthy of getting paid for the services and understanding that you can be of service and like be a genuine like giver, but also be highly compensated monetarily for that. So I think these are like the biggest two changes that I see women entrepreneurs facing.
Yeah, that's so true. Like when you think about it, I mean, it would have only been our parents' generation where it was still quite new for women to be, earning their own money. Like, yeah, there were some, but so often they were kind of in this place of, they would give and serve, whether it was their families or even in other places, volunteer, and they're always doing things, but they weren't getting paid for it, not directly anyway, and they were sort of being looked after. And I think that it's so interesting because, yeah, we've even grown up with some of that still present in our lifetimes. And like you think, well, that's just so embedded in how it's been for so long. And it's only new that women really are, getting paid and getting equal pay, although there's still a long way to go with that. But even like starting to get equal pay, right? So, wow, what a shift, and so many things that we might need to rewire and undo. I'm interested to understand, because you said we grow up in this world, the business world's very masculine, because, again, I guess historically it's been men who've been running the businesses, and they often are making decisions and ways of working, and all the advice is based on what works for them. And it's not necessarily, as a woman, we have different strengths. And one of those would be, I guess, what we call intuition. Like, intuition is not something that I think is solely female. Men have intuition as well. But, talk to me a little bit about why intuition can be so powerful for women. How do we tap into that sort of strength and ability that we have to connect with intuition? And how do you know when it is your intuition speaking, or is it actually fear or something else that's kind of holding us back?
Yeah.
Sorry, that's about 3 questions all in one, but let's open it up. And I'll ask any one of those again.
Perfect. No, for sure. And I also just want to say that we all have like masculine and feminine energy within us, and we all need to use both of those. But we have to like balance it out and make sure that we're leaning to what is more natural to us. So just wanted to clarify that. When it comes to like the intuition, so the intuition, as I call it, is your hotline to the divine. So that's why it's so powerful, because the way you can picture that this is that, universe, God, angels, whomever you resonate with the most, is like sitting up there and as this like giant book of like 100 and whatever pages in their hands, and they like read this book and they can easily like flip to page 55 and say exactly what has happened and where you're like are at page 55. And we don't have that ability, right? We cannot see the future, and we can also not see like the exact path, and we don't have to understand, how we get from A to B. we only know that in hindsight once we've already lived chapter 1 to 24 or whatever. And so the universe is like ringing you up and saying like, hey, you should be doing this and this in order to land exactly there at page 55. And the way it's ringing you up is through your intuition. And the intuition is essentially that, like, what a lot of people refer to as gut feeling or inner knowing. And we all have that. We just unlearn to listen to it because we've been so conditioned to constantly listen to our mind instead of our heart. And a great way to just learn to tap back into it is to get familiar with your body, to just, create that body awareness of, okay, how do certain things feel in my body? Or just like when you're realizing, okay, I'm in like a situation that's like new to me. Maybe you're about to, hold a presentation or go on stage or something, and you notice like your body is like creating all these sensations and emotions. Just like notice that and, draw the connection between what's happening and how your body's reacting. And that way you start to feel your body more. And that way you can also, when, for example, when you ask yourself a question, in terms of like a decision, shall I sign up for this mentorship or shall I be quitting my job or something like that, you can tune into your body and just notice the feelings that come up. And the more you do that, the more you realize how your intuition is communicating with you personally. Like it shows up different for everybody. And it's just like about training yourself to recognize it, to see how it shows up, how it feels in your body. I mean, I can describe how it feels for me if that helps people. But so for me, it's just like this in like my gut area and like my womb area, it's just like this really fuzzy feeling of like, I just know, like, I don't know why, I don't know like how I know, it's just like, no. And it's like this fuzzy feeling, like a tiny version of when you first fall in love, kind of, but like not that intense, just like really warm and like, yeah, just like this inner knowing of this is what I have to do right now. And sometimes it's also just like a like sudden drop and like I feel it in my heart. I feel like, okay, this is like undeniable, like I have to do this right now. It's like this strong desire almost to do something, even if it like sounds crazy, and it takes time and practice to not let your mind get in the way. So in the beginning, like an exercise that I love to give my clients is to just every day look back in the evening and think about how did my intuition guide me today, and just like write down that one thing every single day for like a few months. And then you realize you should kind of train your awareness to pay more attention to intuition. And the first few times you may have no idea what your intuition guided you to do, but like you at least practice to build this awareness. So that's really helpful. And then, you will know with time.
Yeah. So I'm curious, because I guess for me and probably a lot of people as well who might be professionals and have been to university and like we've literally been trained to think. You've been trained to use your brain to figure stuff out your whole life. And it's probably natural to listen to your mind because that's what is natural. So what do you do in order to kind of switch off from the mind? Like, is there anything that you can do to put yourself into a state where it's easier not to listen to the mind and to be able to quieten that down and maybe tune into the body? Is there anything that you would say, these are some tips or something that you could do? And I have another part of that question is, do you find that the intuition piece comes first, like before the mind flicks in? Like, is there something to look for in terms of like that initial reaction and then your brain will kick in and start thinking about it? I know that definitely happens to me. Like, it's always like the first thing that pops in is the intuition, and then I'll start overthinking it, and and my brain's automatically trying to figure it out, and then it takes you off down other pathways. So I'm interested to hear your perspective on this as an expert. Like, is that what happens to everybody, or are there some different ways that you could like learn to recognize when it is your intuition and not your brain that's
I think speaking? What you just said is like already having like quite a lot of awareness. So everyone who's like okay, I feel like maybe the first thing that comes to my mind is my intuition, and then I'm starting to overthink. You already like have gone such a long way in like recognizing your intuition, because it really is like intuition usually comes first. It's like that initial gut reaction, but like a lot of people, they don't even like notice that, because it's such a quiet thing happening, so that they don't even notice that little voice that comes in and says you should be doing this, before they get into this overthinking habit. So definitely intuition always shows up first, and if in doubt, then always go with the first gut reaction, because that's usually the intuition speaking, and then you probably went into like overthinking things and trying to reason things and explain things and make sense of things. In terms of how we can balance our mind and like get out of and into the body, it starts with awareness. We have to obviously first understand that we are overthinking, and the best way to kind of recognize that again is to create this awareness of how things feel. And I know, for example, for me, when I'm overthinking, I just like my mind starts to feel like it's exploding, right? It's just like I'm so in my head, it's like so much pressure like up there that I'm like I can't even think straight anymore, and like it's racing so much. And then I usually know, okay, I'm approaching this from logic, I'm approaching this from mental power rather than intuition. And then what helps is usually to just get your mind off things. So I wouldn't recommend to like go straight into looking like into your body and like trying to find the answer, because usually that's then like coming from mind too. So you want to, just postpone the question for later, just get your mind off things, do something else until you feel like, okay, you've got a clear head again. What really helps me to just like get out of my head in general is like being in nature, or even like meditating, or like breath work, things like that, that really help me to just like get back into my body and become present essentially. And once you've got the feeling of, okay, I'm not like overthinking anymore, I'm just like present, I've got some space between what just went on and like the question that I have to answer, then you can like take a deep breath and just feel, in your body, whether it's in your heart or in your gut area, in your womb area, and just address that question. And like in a meditation, you would just like close your eyes and ask yourself, for example, shall I be quitting my job? And then the first reaction that comes to your mind, if it's a yes, it's a yes. If it's a no, it's a no. And like also just for this present moment, right? You can ask this question, and then maybe in 2 months you get a different answer. So if you get a no and you're not happy with that, then just maybe ask yourself, okay, what needs to happen for it in order to be a yes, right? If you want to quit your job, for example, what needs to happen so it can be a yes? Or is there something that I need to be learning or doing to be able to do this? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. And so my other question around this, because, I think that, and I speak a little bit from personal experience in learning some of these signs and cues a bit myself, but I feel like still just learning. Understanding the difference between this being like the intuition, I'm being guided to make this decision and go this way, versus my sneaky brain or inner critic coming in and telling me, no, not to do that, and trying to keep me safe. Is there a different feeling that you would have in your body if it's the fear speaking versus your intuition guiding you? Like, is there a way that we could determine how that feels differently?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, fear shows up way different in our body than intuition. Intuition is usually like feels very safe, very secure, and very calm. It's like super peaceful. There's like no energetic charge or whatsoever when it comes in. The reason we then sometimes go into fear mode is because we are afraid of what's going to happen when we take that advice from our intuition. And then that's usually like once we start to like panic or get into this aroused state into this like flight mode, then we're usually already in fear, and that's already coming from mind, not from intuition. It's the reaction of mind to your intuition that's been causing that arousal in your body.
That's interesting. And yeah, because I can kind of remember or tune back into times where I might have had something that came through and getting a little bit excited, but your heart might race a little bit, and I'm like, is that nervousness and fear, or is that actually excitement and positive? Because they can kind of have the same feeling, can't they, that slightly increased heart rate. So yeah, it's interesting. I guess it's learning then to understand what the difference is, and is it a good excitement, or is it like the heart racing because it feels scary?
Absolutely. And I think it's so important to understand too that feeling fear and having your heart race and feeling uncomfortable is normal. It's expected and is wanted even. We just cannot let that hold us back from following our intuition and doing the things that we know we need to be doing. And like the beautiful thing is action is the antidote to fear. So as soon as we act on that fear, the fear just goes away. So it's amazing if you're feeling fear. It's like, it's a sign that your brain is working perfectly normal. And we just have to, find like healthy coping mechanisms of how we can push ourselves out of the comfort zone and take the action regardless of the fear that we're feeling. And that has a lot to do with nervous system regulation and just creating a safe space for ourselves.
And what would you say around trusting? Because I guess that is the key, and we're getting some intuition that comes in. If you don't trust it 100%, it makes it really hard then to take that step. Is it just simply practice and learning to trust and learning to say it's okay, even if the outcome doesn't work out, I'll be okay? Or is there something else that you can do to trust easily? Because I would say, just assuming what I know from people who I've coached and what I've seen, is that trust is probably the one thing that holds most people back from following that guidance that they might get, or when they feel like, well, this is the right thing, but they're just too afraid to take that step.
Yeah, such a great question.
The lack of trust.
Yeah, for sure. I would first reflect back and ask, who do you need to be trusting, right? And for me, there's like two instances that you need to be trusting, which is yourself and source. And with yourself, of course, you gotta be confident in the knowing that you're capable to deal with the outcome, right? And I feel like that trust, or like what has helped me and a lot of my clients to build that trust within yourself, is just thinking back to moments when you went through a hard time, or when something, rather challenging happened and you just dealt with it fine, right? Because a lot of times we're like, again, it's a normal mechanism of our brain. Our brain, when we look back to like, back when, we were cavemen and cavewomen, our brain was constructed in a way to keep us safe and to make sure that we are not going to die. And that's still the case today. Like, this part of the brain has not processed far enough to like really understand when we are in like actual danger and when not. So even things like a scenario where our subconscious mind can be perceiving a potential threat for abandonment can lead as far as it believing that we're in danger of life and death. So fear is normal, and we just have to like understand and like make our subconscious mind in that moment understand that we trust ourselves enough that we are capable to deal with the outcome, whatever it is, whether, it's like a fairly good outcome or something that's rather challenging. So that's the first part. And the second part is your trust in source, because again, there's just things that we cannot foresee and things that we cannot control. And also, like, I don't wish it on anyone, but like it can happen that we're going through such a challenging time that we just don't know how to navigate it. And it's like not enough to rely on ourselves or our immediate support system to make reasoning for what's happening. And I think it's so important to just like nurture your relationship to source and really understand that it's not just like some abstract thing out there, but that like I love to personify it and kind of see it as like my mum or my dad or just someone I have a really unconditional like relationship with, and just know, okay, they're taking care of me, they're wanting my best, they're like loving me unconditionally, and I can always lean on them for support. And again, that also requires like a certain degree of willingness to surrender and let go, which again is like part of trusting, right? Because if you let go and if you surrender, you're like essentially like putting all your trust and your faith into that higher power to say like, okay, look, I don't know what's best for me right now. I don't know like if that outcome is like the best, the way I picture it right now, but I'm gonna trust that, you know, whatever you intend for me to be the best, that's what's going to be the best. And just like really nurturing that connection.
I love that. And, you know, I guess knowing and believing that whatever happens, it will all work out. Maybe we just don't see how it's going to work, but trusting in that you're on the right path. I love that. I do have a question, and this has come up because obviously we're talking about entrepreneurs. So we're talking about business, and there's a difference, you know, when we're applying this awareness of our intuition and making decisions on what we're doing in a business. It can have big impacts in terms of how often these things are coming in, how often we're making decisions, what they are. And what would you say around somebody who maybe feels like they get a lot of different, whether they think of them as ideas or, you know, or guidance that's come into them, their intuition. Do you advise people to sit with stuff for a little bit of time before taking action, or in terms of the amount of different things that are coming in? Like, I guess what I'm asking in a very roundabout way is something we might want to avoid. And again, speaking from personal experience, because I'm someone that moves quickly and I often act on things, but if you take too much action too quickly, you could be scattered. You could be going in all different directions. You could actually be making your business grow more slowly, you know, actually making it harder on yourself because you're literally taking different action and changing direction and this and that. So I don't believe, you know, as you've explained it, I don't believe that your real intuition and source would be telling you to keep on shifting direction everywhere. So there would be part of that might be, hey, maybe you're listening to some fear that you're not doing it right, and so you keep on chopping and changing to try to find the right way. But is there a way that we could, you know, if become more present to this and recognize it in ourselves, that maybe that's a tendency that we have? And what would you say to that sort of fast acting person who tends to be really motivated? Do you say, well, just sit, you know, have the intuition? Do we sit with it for a certain amount of time? Like, how do we test whether that really is what we should do or not? Or do you just say, just take the action? Do you really know when it's a big one? Is there some way that we can differentiate between?
Yeah.
Is that an easy question to answer?
Yeah, I definitely
try to explain it. I'm like, yeah.
I definitely have kind of multiple aspects to this. So the first thing, I think, when it comes to decision making specifically, it's really, really beneficial to know your human design, because your human design will give you some information around what your core way of making decisions are. For example, like I have a sacral authority, which means I like need to make decisions from my gut feeling, which is usually fast, right? So like I'm not the kind of person that has to think about a decision for like days. Like if I do that, then I know I'm overthinking. I'm not living in alignment with my human design. But then there's also people who are emotional authority, for example, who need to wait for this clarity of emotion to make that decision. So just knowing your human design can already help you to really understand what type of decision maker you are and how you should be approaching, whether you maybe should be waiting a little bit longer to make a decision and then, or, you know, just act fast. the second aspect to this, I think we have to really differentiate between making, big decisions like hiring someone or firing someone or, like letting go of a project, things like that. And then we have to just like, the other part of decision making is obviously, okay, are we going to like give this idea of like a offer like a bit more thought or not, right? Or is this something that we really want to pursue? So there's like different layers of like, okay, this is like a really impactful decision, I guess, and this is rather like a not so impactful decision. And when it comes to like this idea thing, I think it's really important to be wary of your patterns. I've got a client as well. She, like on a session last week, she just came to me and said like, like I've got this like idea, I want to wait with this like other mentorship that I'm currently building. And I've got this idea of a new mentorship. And I'm like, do you think like this is really a good idea? Because I could see her repeating this pattern that she just repeated with that other mentorship program of hers. And we just have to really be conscious, especially when it comes to like this creation thing. Creating is like a very feminine energy. And of course, because we're so much in our masculine, we're like, creating feels so good. It feels so comfortable. It feels like so aligned. So we want to do more of it, of course. But we really have to ask ourselves, is this moving us in the right direction in terms of our big objective, right? Is creating this new offer right now really helping you to bring in more money? Or is it just a way of you like trying to find more comfort in your out of alignment business, essentially? And then the next kind of aspect to this is just overhauling, I guess, your entire way of how you're leading your business. Because again, we are like so much in our masculine energy and we are like constantly thinking, okay, how should I be doing this? How can I make more money? What can I do to sell more? How can I get the next client? And like, again, approaching everything from logic and mind power. And sometimes we need that, right? We need the masculine to create that structure so that we can thrive in our feminine, but we're not supposed to live in that state and operate from that state all the time. So if you find yourself constantly thinking, what can I do next? How can I do this? How can I make more money? How can I sign the next client? What can I do? Then you're not leading from your feminine and you're not leading from your intuition. It feels so uncomfortable. And it's like something that I'm currently really diving deeper into myself, where you just allow yourself to sit. You just don't ask yourself these questions and you're just getting so radically confident with not knowing what the next move is. And it's so scary because it's not how we're, conditioned. But then when you create this space, when you don't ask yourself constantly, what's next? What do I need to be doing? What can I do? You make that space for insights to drop in. And sometimes like I'm sitting on the couch and I just like have this insight of, why don't I just do this story? Or why don't I just post that on Threads? And these are then the messages of the next steps that I need to be taking in alignment with my unique path.
Oh, that's so good. I love that, because I can think there are times where it's like so busy thinking about what do I need to be doing next? What is the next action? That your brain doesn't have that space. And it's really obvious to see it because there is literally nothing coming up saying, hey, I should post this on Threads or I should post this on Instagram. Like none of those ideas or inspirations come through. Whereas at other times, it's almost like they're just on a tap flowing. So like contrasting those moments, it can really, now I can see that's when I'm in my head thinking, what do I need to do next? I'm trying to drive myself with the productivity and it really dampens down the creativity. But I love that you brought up creativity, because reflecting on that, and I think this would be useful for others listening as well, as you were talking about it, I noticed, I get really inspired when I'm creating something. And I think that this has been something that's driven me to create many different offers and programs over the years. When I was looking back at, you always feel like you're not doing anything and you're like, hang on, I've created a membership, high-level group coaching programs, a signature course, mini courses, a podcast, like plus all of the masterclasses. Like there has been a lot, and in an actually really short amount of time when you consider how much work goes into them. So here you are thinking, I haven't even really done anything. It's like, no, actually that's insane, the amount of things that you've created. And that's such a take-home insight for me, because I'm like, tune into that, because it's like I'm feeding this need to create, which I'm obviously loving and it feels really good, but is that really helping my business? And why don't I get more creative in what I've already got and make that better and actually drive my energy into growing what's already there rather than starting the race again? It kind of feels like you've already got a race that's underway with whatever you've already done. And then, oh no, I'm going to go back to the start line and start all over again with another one, a new one. Like, no wonder it takes so long to get anywhere if you keep starting over. So that was really amazing, so powerful. Thank you for sharing. And I thought as well, the fun thing that you mentioned about your human design, I'm a manifesting generator. So I learned about myself that I move quickly, and that's been another really big lesson. I love that you brought it up to, start to understand a bit about your design and what that means. I don't actually know a lot about I'm an emotional solar plexus, I think. So I don't know what the solar plexus means as different to the sacral. But that is, then it gives me a clue of, well, maybe that's something I could go and find out a bit more about and really understand how I can tune into that decision-making part of me. So thank you for making that suggestion, because I think it is really beneficial to understand more about yourself, isn't it? And
sure.
The kind of questions that you can ask yourself. So thank you for sharing those.
No, absolutely. Can I just say something to that as well? Because I think that it's not just the authority in human design that's important. It's also your actual human design, like managers, for example. And no way an expert. I just know quite a lot because I'm diving into that, or I'm utilizing it with my clients to create that awareness. But like managers are there to inform and initiate, versus generators, who I am, for example, we're here to respond. So I'm not, like, my design isn't designed to go out there and act on ideas that just pop into my mind. I need to respond to my environment, right? So if I've got an idea and then someone says, why don't you do that? And it's aligned with my idea, then that's my call, my cue to do that. But managers, for example, they are here to initiate and inform. So it's way likelier that a manager will have an idea pop into their mind and say okay, this is what you need to know. Versus a generator doing that, right? And then there's other human designs, obviously, that have other ways of operating, essentially. And then the second thing that I wanted to say with the creativities as well, just everyone who's just resonated with what you said, I think it can be so beneficial to just ask yourself as well, how can you bring more of that creativity into other areas of your business? It doesn't always have to be creating a new offer, but how can you get more creative with selling? How can you get more creative with your social media content, or with your offline marketing stuff, right? How can you get more creative in serving your clients? How can you put more creativity into the way that you are presenting yourself, right? Just bringing that creativity that you love so much, that lights you up so much, into all these other areas, and really instead of selling, make art, and let your art then do the selling for you.
I love that. It's so good. Thank you so much. It's been such an enlightening chat, and I was wondering if you had anything else that you're I really wanted to share this, or it's whatever is in your intuition right now that you think people really would like to know. Do you have anything that you wanted to share at the end of the episode?
Yeah, I think we covered already so much, and I think for everyone who's resonated what we talked about so far and just thought to themselves, okay, maybe I am very much in my masculine energy and I could definitely benefit from some of that feminine energy, just to explore, right? And just put yourself on a challenge, similar to what I'm doing at the moment, of just like for a week, right? Create so much white space in your calendar, like literally like at least 2 hours a day where you just do nothing. And like for just a week, challenge yourself not to think about what's the next thing I can do, what's the next step, just like be, right? And get comfortable with this uncomfortable feeling of I need to know, I need to figure it out, and just see what happens from that space. Because I promise you, you're probably going to have like a really great idea. It's going to really create some massive shifts in your career.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I think that's definitely been something that I've been experiencing this year, is as I've slowed down and I'm learning to just, let go of some of the ideas or not take action immediately, and sitting with it. It's amazing the clarity that comes through, and it's amazing actually what does happen when you're not trying really hard to push things to be. And I see that a lot in some of my clients as well. It's like, especially high achievers. I think, we've got this high achieving background. It's like you think, I should be there already. I'm going to make it happen. And you've got all of this energetic force going forward. But it's like sometimes you actually need to, as you said, surrender and maybe let go of that and just let it be where it is, without saying, I'm just going to sit on the couch and watch Netflix. It's like, it's not that. That's not really going to do much for your business, but you don't have to be pushing the business and working yourself to the bone in order to make things happen. And I've definitely come from that environment back in the day when I was an employee, of like working all the hours and, nose to the desk and in your computer, always doing something, to then thinking, well, actually just as much happens when I'm taking my foot off the pedal, when I am at swimming lessons with my kids or down at the beach, and the business is still operating even though I'm not actually there doing something. So it's kind of just taking a different perspective on it. And I love that you're sort of saying, yeah, you're never going to know unless you do. Just trust and surrender and just have that moment and see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Tara, you've been so, I love this discussion. I think there's so much in here. I know we've only scratched the surface of all of this, intuition, guidance, but it's really, I think what's amazing about it is whether or not you feel you're already a spiritual person or you're not at all, and this has felt very woo-woo for you, that's fine. Thing is that this is all what's come in within us. We all have the ability to be intuitive, and we all have it within us. It's just whether we're listening to it right now or not, and how much you're listening. So hopefully Tara has inspired you just to start asking the question, maybe be a bit curious and think about it a little bit more. But if someone really wanted to dive more deeply and are just thinking, wow, I love this idea and I want to start learning more about it, how could they find you, Tara? Where do you hang out online? What's the best place for them to connect with you?
Yeah, so I'm sharing a lot of like snippets and like quick advices over on Instagram around all the topics that we talked about. My handle is Tara.Fischer. And also, like, for those who just are really curious on like deeper things, my podcast, obviously, the Be Magnetic podcast, you're going to be a guest on it too soon. So that's definitely a place where you can just like have a bit more of like a deeper dive. And then if someone is excited to maybe explore that for themselves and they want to have guidance, they can check out all my offers on my website. It's tarafischer.org, or just reach out to me on Instagram, and I can walk you through the stuff that I have available, and also kind of we can discuss what may be the best option for where you are.
Yeah, that's awesome. Oh, I love that. Well, I'll make sure that they're all linked up in the show notes. Definitely hop over and get into the Be Magnetic podcast. Tara obviously has so much to share, and as you can tell, she's really great at explaining things in a way that's easy for us all to understand. So I love that. Thank you, Tara. And please do connect with her, or let us know what you've enjoyed most about this episode today. If there's been something that was just a light bulb moment, you've had a bit of clarity, you're like, oh my goodness, I do that, or I say that to myself. Those are the things that you can take away from today's episode, and just examine in your time when maybe you're in the shower or out on a walk, in nature, connecting with just some space and giving your brain some space, see where that little thread might take you. That's what's exciting. So thank you. Thank you for joining me today, Tara. Really
Thank
cool.
you so much.
And I'm so excited to chat with you again really soon.
Talk soon.
Have you ever had that feeling that like you're running your business like you're in first gear in the car? So your revs are really high. There's a lot of energy and effort and input going in, and you're just not going anywhere very fast. You're kind of crawling along at this like high revs. Well, that's a really common feeling. And the most likely cause of this is the strategy that you're using in your business, and actually the part of the strategy that you're focusing on right now. You see, a lot of people like to skip ahead and they jump straight into what I call phase 3, which is the execution alignment. And they're in there doing all of this work and energy to figure out how to execute on their marketing plans in order to bring in the clients for their offers, but they actually have skipped over the first 2 phases, and that's making it really hard to get any sort of traction and any sort of result in phase 3. Now, that makes perfect sense to you when you think about it. Well, of course, if I'm in phase 3, but I haven't actually graduated there, my business is still in phase 1, but I'm trying to operate in phase 3, of course, that's why it isn't working. Now, there are what I would call 5 key phases of your strategy development that help you go from literally business with nothing happening, 0 clients, nothing coming in at all, to having a lifestyle-friendly, profitable, fulfilling, and really easy to run business. So there's 5 key phases that you're going to go through in that journey from A to B, from the beginning to having that amazing vision of your business and life in balance. I've put together a really simple guide that helps you to self-diagnose which phase you're in right now in your business, so that you can see, well, what is it that you should be focusing on so that you can graduate to the next phase, so you can step up to that next level. And each phase you get into, the momentum builds. By the time you reach phase 5, your business is at full steam. You are literally in gear number 5. You're racing down the motorway with nothing stopping you at all. So if you want to get a copy of this guide and figure out what phase you're in right now and what you should be focusing on, then head to my website, jessicaosborne.com/5 phases. The link is below in the show notes for you, and grab your free copy. Get stuck in. Let me know what it is that you find out, and you can get your business moving to your next level much, much sooner once you're focused on the right thing. So hope you enjoy it, and that's all from me.